Chilling tales for dark nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.
He lays in his bed festering, half awake. His mind grinds as not-so-distant memories rip through his psyche, like sharded broken glass being shot out of a makeshift cannon and impacting an already trauma-damaged brain. He desires almost nothing more than the peace of real sleep and true rest, something resembling the solitary darkness of death. However, he knows he will find none within his dreams, as the echoes of what was and was not done will resurface with the same tenacity and aggression of a cruel, rabid dog breaking the leash of and attacking its own caretaker. He has convinced himself to know this is deserved. He knows this to be hell. The hell his own mind continually creates, likely to punish him for the last 20 years of both intentional and non-intentional failures. His resting limbs pulsate a quick tremor. He begins to sob silently to himself as tears run down his face without any efforts for emotional restraint. He wants it all to end, for it never to have started, for it never to have existed, and for it to have never happened. As he lays half awake within his bed, which he thinks of as his solitary sanctuary prison, he wishes for nothing more than to be able to escape his own mind. However, his pride and experience of the world would never allow him to submit to the will, subversion, or direction of a crumbling society, which might then become even more painful and dangerous. He would never submit to himself, to others, or to this world he knows to be a rancorous pit of corruption as a whole. As the exhaustion and the fatigue from his grinding conscience sets in, the darkness of sleep finally consumes him. His body becomes limp and relaxed as his mind wanders, uncontrolled and without restraint, back in time. However, this time it is different. The memories, uncontrollably altered by the mixture of whatever spiritual plane to which the mind wanders in dreams, mixed, twisted, perverted by his brutally malign psychological state, a state of mind many of his same profession share. He sees the island, the water filled and soaked with the blood of sins as it washes gently, almost caressingly, upon his bare feet. However, this water does not wash the dirt which seems to have accumulated upon them, for this is not the cleansing waters of an ancient carpenter. As each tide covers his feet, it leaves hues of red and droplets of blood, which accumulate more and more upon him with each of its recessions back into the ocean. He has been here many times before, seemingly to himself as punishment, as judgment, as retribution. Slowly and grudgingly, he looks upwards towards where the sea of blood meets the shoreline. As expected, there they are. Their faces are all somber, silent, sad, and their gazes are hollowed, looking as though someone or something had robbed them unwillingly of their innocence, which still, somehow, simultaneously remains. Expressionless and undeniably empty, they gaze back into him. He looks to his left. He looks to his right. There seems to be more this time, at least by a few dozen. Their child bodies stand still and motionless, almost as if at attention, as the pale blue light cast from an empty blue moon shines its darkness upon each of their sad and helpless-looking faces. Gazing back towards his feet, he notices that once again, his feet and the sand have seemingly melted into one to form glass-like and semi-transparent husks which anchor him into place. He attempts to move a foot. He wants more than anything to walk up the beach, to finally see what is over the not-so-distant hills which separate the beach from a seemingly not-so-distant mainland. His feet remain anchored in place. The ocean of blood continues to move its tide on and off of them as he continues to stare upwards yearningly at the hills beyond the beach. The hills, covered in blades of grass which always appear black as they are casted upon from the bluish-hued darkness creating moonlight, offer a sense of sanctuary from the faces of the gazing and hollowed-out children. He has convinced himself that if he could only reach the other side of those hills, then he would finally reach the sunlight, where things would once again appear to be normal. He has convinced himself he would awaken and this dream would cease to reoccur. The guilt would cease to haunt, stalk, and devour him like a rotting brain cancer within his dreams, but also within the frequent and involuntary thoughts of his waking life. As he struggles to free himself, his posture shifts. The faces of the gazing and hollowed-out children shifts as well. As the darkness from the blue moonlight intensifies, the sadness and despair upon the faces of the children becomes significantly more apparent. Their gaze feels as though it's actually piercing through his body, like a sharp, projected piercing point within his chest. As he grabs his own thigh and tugs mercilessly, not caring if his glass-like feet shatter so that he might move from his stuck position. One of the young girl's mouths drops open and she emits a shrill, high, piercing scream. The scream causes every hair in his body to stand at attention as his flesh feels as though it might actually rip away from his muscles and bones before being carried off by the wave of almost violent sound. He stops tugging his own thigh to cover his ears as the shrill sharpness causes an almost rupture-like sensation within his eardrums. The very joints connecting all of his bones begin to rattle as though they will explode from the mere frequency of the sound. She stops screaming. Her mouth closes. The children begin to look at each other in confusion, desolation, and absolute despair. Their eyes begin to cry. Their tears are black beyond the blackest black of space's infinity. Hopeless. After a few passing seconds, the attention of the gathered mass of hollowed children shifts, and they once again fixate their gaze upon him.
Why won't you help us?
One of their voices questions as it pleads, sounding confused, broken, robbed, and wounded.
Why won't you help us?
They all start questioning and pleading towards him, loudly, as their out-of-sync voices sound kind, vulnerable, innocent, disorganized, and helpless. He awakens back into his dark room, back into his bed of solitude, back into the reality which is no more of an escape than the nightly dreams which ravage him psychologically. As he has done, like many nights before, he climbs from his bed and walks towards the closet. He flips on the light and examines his old uniform as it hangs, having collected considerable amounts of dust while within its own solitary and abandoned darkness. Tears fill his eyes as he wonders if the dreams and torment will stop if he puts the uniform on for one more year, and this time refuses to turn a blind eye to what must be done and the danger which must be faced by at least someone. This is Marshall Beck. The story is dedicated to our missing and permanently compromised operatives from We the People Arizona Alliance, Children of the Night, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, and anyone else with the courage to fight the mass and dark underworld of the child trafficking rings.
Chilling tales for dark nights.